So trader, the markets have just closed and we are getting a bit of a turning point across the energy sector, I'm noticing, with oil and the actual energy sector. So is that a bit of a inflation turning point coming, and what's going to happen with the market? Let's get straight into it. Don't place a trade based on what you'll see in this video because there is no guarantees of making a profit in the market. It takes you a long time to become a good trader. So this video here is just to educate you to become a much better trader. Alrighty trader, so let's have a look at the actual stock market itself. Today we actually had a bit of a nothing day today. But we are still in this downward leg through here. If we have a look at, let's just bring up the last, we'll see we're in this very downward leg through here. So this actually we still may continue in this downward leg. Where it does look like to me we're getting close to a very final leg in the market because of how much selling we're getting right now, how strong this is. And you'll notice this across a lot of the markets. Like if I go to the USO market here for a minute and I squeeze up my charts, let me just bring up this chart here. You will notice that can I go back there? Yeah, you'll notice how that we get some very strong selling before the end of the move. So we can see that that's what we're getting right now when we're coming to, let me go back to here, right? So we're getting a very strong selling period when it comes to the S&P 500. We're looking at the Dow Jones as well too. The Dow Jones, just a beautiful trading pattern, guys. I tell you. If you haven't done so yet, guys, make sure you get access to that. I'm giving away free access to my trading course, and I'm just gonna teach you my trading system for free. And plus, there's actually 5 phases in that trading course. So if you need some help, then make sure you go through all the different 5 phases. I promise you, that's gonna really help you in your trading. So we're continuing this downward slope through here. We're starting to get we got very strong, but now we're getting these sort of small little bars, and we're starting to slowly go down. We're getting very close to a turning point here, and I'll share with you just the reasons why I say that in just a minute. But look at the Nasdaq here. If it just loads up for me, looking at the data, loading. And the Nasdaq, you can see it's sort of just flattening out a bit, but we are still in this very sort of strong overall downward trend here. So nothing's really changed on a trend basis. But we are coming up towards some really strong levels of support. So if I bring up my good old longer term charts, this is a long term chart on the Nasdaq. Look what we're getting right now. We're getting very close to. So it seems to me, I don't know. It seems to me, guys, we're getting very close to turning points. We're getting a Nasdaq is almost down towards this major level of support around that 10,000, that 9,500 level. We can see the S&P 500 was getting very close to these levels through here, as you can see, around that 3,500 level, around about that area, give or take a few hundred points. But I say give or take a few hundred points because this is a big weekly chart, big macro view, right? So it's not an exact like 3,452.666. Actually, no, 777. So we can see that through there, right? So we're getting very close to these sort of strong levels through here. And same for look where the Dow Jones is. The Dow Jones is almost at this level of support, and just below it, we have this other support level here. So we're getting towards these levels right now. But then when we start let me actually flip this over here for a minute. I'm gonna go back to here. And when we start to look at things like the energy sector, look what's happening with the energy sector. We're starting to fall off a cliff, right? Let me actually bring up a different chart for you. Let me bring up this chart here. This chart here is just a black open, highlight, close bar chart. And I've just squeezed it up. It's a daily chart, and I've just squeezed it up. But look what's happened through here. Look how vertical we went through here. We had and to me, this looks like it's the final blow-off move before we start to see some significant downturn in the markets. And you can see, look at this here. Look how vertical that move is. And now we're getting this very sharp pullback through here. We may even get a pullback through there and then start to see a very nice pullback down towards this levels of support. So we're starting to get that softening over the last week of the energy sector. And you can see that, look at this here. So it also was above those levels of support that were through there, as you can see. So those levels of resistance all through there, and it broke back above it, and now we're getting back below it. So we're getting a softening of the energy sectors through here, and that's telling me that, okay, maybe because I've always had these inflation This is the this is the inflation screenshot here I took from a Larry Williams. It's not my screenshot, so it's a Larry Williams video that he did, and I watched it. And I've always had, if I look back at the overall, this is a long term, looking at the last sort of couple of decades of the inflation cycle, and you can see how that this inflation cycle, the black line, is. Now, actually, before I start that, guys, just remember that I'm actually, if you've been watching me now for the last few weeks, you'll know that I'm expecting inflation to start to peak real soon and start to come back down, because that's how the universe works, right? We don't just go up and up and up and up, and we just stay up and we stay up. We eventually, the more up we go, the more down we go. You know what I mean? Just like look at the energy sector I just talked about. So understanding that's how the law works of the markets and life in general. I'm looking for that, but then I looked at this. This is the inflation cycle forecast, and you can see how the blue line is the actual cycle indicator. It doesn't tell us how high or how far up, but it just gives us rough turning points. See, this was a turning point here. This was a turning point here. Now the black line is what? The actual inflation number. The blue line is the inflation turning indicator. So you can see here, that's when we had the turning point. That's when we had the turning point. This here was the next turning point. That there was the next turning point. So as you can see here, now this was the high. That was the next major high. That was the next major high, right? So it's not 100%, but I have to say 70% of the time it's actually pretty good. So we can see that if we have a look at anything, especially the last few major lows since 2010, it has been pretty much spot on with this inflation indicator, or this inflation turning cycle indicator. So we can see it's actually rallying right up. But look at this here. It's actually telling us that we're actually going to get a bit of a deflationary period into 2026. And then we're going to see another big reinflation. Now, what's probably going to happen to the inflation, if this is the inflation indicator here, okay, we may even go up like that through there. Actually, let me see if I can, let me bring up a bit more of a different color through here, because let me go, okay, so I'll get this one here. Right? So this is the inflation. The black line is the inflation. What's probably going to happen is we're going to go up here. We're probably going to have a bit of a deflationary period. We're going to pull back. We may pull back to here. Again, it doesn't tell us how low it's going to go. It just tells us where the major turning point is going to happen. And then maybe 2026, when we do get the next reflation, because what's going to cause the next reflation is they're going to do the exact same thing as they did back in COVID. Okay. So if you're looking for a really good time to buy the markets and you're not sure, then just wait for that, because they're going to reflate the markets, okay? But we're going to see a bit of a pullback through here through inflation, and we're getting towards the end of the peak inflation, and we're going to start to pull back, and that's going to start to cause this massive reflation in asset prices. So the stock market's getting very, very close to these major support levels. So we're getting very close to a major turning point from a technical point of view, from a chart, from the stock market. But then now we're looking at the forecast. Okay, then it looks like we're starting to get a bit of a turning point, because the energy sector is actually sort of peaking out. So that means also oil is actually starting to peak out as well. So we're also getting a bit of a turning point through here. But then what's going to happen the next time they do it? Here, they did, I forget exactly how much. This is, call it 3, okay? 3 trillion. This one here is going to be probably times 3 to 4. Okay, this one's going to be the big daddy of all the big daddies. And then we're going to see what? If you want to see real inflation happen, then guess what's going to happen? That's what's going to happen. And we're going to see something, and then we're going to see the inflation go higher than it did this time. But this here is going to be 2030 over here. Make sense? So we are going to go through a bit of a deflationary period. We're starting to see that slightly, along with, just with everything, right? Commodity prices. We're starting to see the energy sector pull back. Property market's not as high right now. Things are starting to soften a lot because of interest rates going up, right? So we're going to start to see that turning point. And then when we get this here, they're going to inject so much that we're going to get a reflation. Now, guess what's going to really benefit on this second half? After this 2026 period, guess what's really going to heat up? You got it, gold, silver, mining sector. That's going to be the big daddy. So much money is going to be made from there. So if I look, this is actually the last sort of 10 years, right? But if I go have a look at, looking at a screenshot, that's just looking at the last, just looking at a much closer point of view. This screenshot here is looking at the last. This is going back to since 1990. you can see how this one here is just zoomed in a lot more. And again, I got all this from a Larry Williams video that I watched, so I want to take it off to him. And as you can see through here, right, that there was the 2015 turning point. And then we had what? We had a deflationary period, and then that was the major turning point there around that. As you can see, the blue line is what? It just doesn't tell us where is it going to turn. It just tells us that at that time it's going to be roughly a turning point. And then so look where we are right now. We're getting what? We're getting very, very, very close to a turning point. Now, again, I think this is a monthly sort of data through here. So it's going to take time. It's going to take it for a few months for this to happen. But if we do, we may start getting done like that. And then we may get a line, and we may get a dot like that. And we may get a line, and we may get a dot like that, right? But guess what's going to, and this is where we need to be very, 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 as this is starting to happen over the next few months, if we go and we look at, say, that as that's happening, right, we're getting the energy sector pullback right now. We're getting this is the USO right now. The USO is starting to pull back quite hard. Looks like the USO may have made a final top, because look at this here, complete last final high. So we have a high here, and we had a complete breakup. But what's that? It's a false breakout, isn't it? Because look, it broke up, and then just now it's complete reversing. And we're completely reversing. But now look at also this as well too. So we had that high point, but then if I draw my trend lines, you can also see that we're starting to get to, say, that point through there, maybe even possibly somewhere through there, I would say, right? So we're getting a big, very big sort of strong breakout out of this level through here. So this tells me that we're getting very, very close to a peak in the oil prices. So it looks like oil is going to start to really pull back quite hard as well. So as this is happening, right? Remember I said before about the inflation. Now, the stock market's probably going to start to rally, because the stock market is smart. The stock market sees things happening before we even see it happening. Let me say that again. The stock market, this S&P 500 and all that sort of stuff, right? There's this market here. The stock market sees things happening before we actually see it happening. I'm going to say that one more time. The stock market sees things happening before we actually see it with our own eyes happening. People are like, oh, inflation's high, or they're raising interest rates so high. The stock market, the living thing it is, it saw this happening many months ago, right? So on the flip side, if the stock market sees things happening before we actually see it happening, when we actually see the inflation data pulling back, then it's not, then the market's going to bottom out and go through a move. The market will bottom out first, start to go for a move for a month or two, and then we're going to start to see better numbers with the inflation. And we're like, so that's the reason why the market's going up, because we're getting better inflation numbers. But do you see what I'm saying there? The market's probably going to start to go up first, because the market sees things happening before we actually see it happening. And then we're gonna start to rally, have a very nice sort of 10 or 20% rally out of the markets. I'm not saying right now today, right? But we're gonna start to get that very nice movement up to the upside. Then the numbers gonna come out and say, look, see, the market's rallying because the good numbers. But hang on a minute, the market's gonna start to rally first, because they're smart that way, right? It sees things happening. So that's where we need to be very, very, very alert. Right now, yes, we're in a very big downtrend. But we need to keep in mind that we're getting very, very close to a significant turning point, and that we could start to see a very nice sort of strong, let me go back to this chart through here. We could start to see a very strong move coming out of this over the next few weeks. Hey traders, I'm giving away 100% free access to my brand new breakthrough full trading course. This is 8 videos over 10 hours of pure amazing and powerful strategies. This is my most powerful systems and strategies that I've used for the last 16 years. And I'm giving it away for free. So this is what I want you to do right now. I want you to go to johnsfreegift.com, or there should be a link around here somewhere, a button or in the description or somewhere in there. Click on that and you can go get free access to my brand new breakthrough trading course. So go to johnsfreegift.com right now. Go do that right now, guys. You can get full, complete, free membership access. Go do that right now.